Charles, many people are waiting to see what is going to happen in Iran. It seems like on again, off again. There's perhaps something lost in translation to Farsi. How are you?
Very well done, Jason, and great poster. I'm good. I didn't brag about it, but back in April, I played in this little golf tournament in Augusta and won this jacket. Pretty cool, huh?
People are going to believe that. They were not going to get the joke, I don't think.
Yeah, it's called the Masters, and I know I didn't win that tournament. I wouldn't even dream of attending the tournament, let alone winning it. But I did get this new green jacket. It's the first time in my life I've ever owned a green jacket,
Ah, very
a
nice. I
dark green
think
jacket.
ready to go racing with Aston Martin.
I guess. I
Yeah.
guess.
So, Charles, there's been a lot of talk. Trump had this big meeting at Camp David. What's on your mind today?
Well, actually, the meeting where they announced it was going to be at Camp David, but they switched at the last second and held it at the White House. And I think that there are many troubles with the Iran conflict, but chief among them is nobody really knows who runs the country, and it's in the interest, the perceived interest of these bandits who have basically been stealing the country's wealth since 1979, if not before, to pretend that they can deliver on some kind of deal and to engage in negotiations and to delay any further destruction. So I think who is Trump negotiating with? I mean, is it the son of the former uh, supreme leader? Uh, has the son actually recovered? Is he still alive? Does he speak for the country if he is alive? What about the IRGC, that is the Revolutionary Guard? What about the army? What about this Pahlavi guy who's waiting in the wings? What about the people of Iran? So I think unwisely, it will seem in hindsight, uh, Trump did not press the advantage that he had when the regime was actually crumbling, and he listened to people and he stopped. I think the ceasefire was a big mistake. And maybe it was necessary to do it from our side because we had run out of munitions and we didn't have enough troops on the ground. But I think the only negotiation I would be dealing with right now is this surrender terms.
They,
Much like the end of World War II. I mean, this is preposterous. We have people running around Iran, people in Pakistan claiming that they're mediating, people in Qatar claiming that they're mediating. We have, Witkoff and Kushner pretending that they're getting something. I mean, what the hell is really going on here? And if the government of Iran is incapable of understanding that they've lost, then we just have to press on militarily.
Al
Is
Jazeera
he,
is reporting that Israel is ordering mass displacement for South Lebanon and that there's no U.S.-Iran deal yet. Yet it does seem like things are not moving in a favorable direction.
yeah, and letting the internet stand back up in Iran, I think is a move actually that I hope will embolden the resistance, the population to finally rise up. I mean, this is a complete mess for Iran, for the government of Iran. There's no way that they actually legitimately have beaten Israel in this conflict. And what you see is a whole bunch of never Trumpers inside and outside the country trying to run with a narrative that we're worse off now than we were under the JCPOA. That is the deal that Kerry and Obama got across the line, wherein large sums of money were unfrozen and went to the benefit of the mullahs. And much of that money was then used to spread terror around the world. So um, I don't know. I don't understand what is taking so long. I don't understand what Trump is doing here. I don't understand why we should hold out the potential for a peace deal when there was a rumor, I think within the last 36 hours, that the Iranians were saying, listen, if you want to continue negotiations, you're going to have to stump up 14 billion now and another 14 billion 30 days from now. I mean, like, are you crazy? There's no way. And I think we just need to go back to Plan B until they beg for peace.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that yesterday, I think, and it was kind of like, wait a minute, are they just saying this to make Trump look stupid? Because if Obama gave them
Well,
1.5 billion and now they're asking for 24 billion, it's like, what?
no, Obama gave, I think, 1.7 billion in the form of untraceable banknotes,
Cash. Yeah.
right? And also unfroze, I think, over close to $200 billion in assets that were frozen.
Ah,
So even if it's 30 billion, but just we don't need to negotiate in that way. I mean, it's like you saw what happened when we started with you. You've had a ceasefire now. You're not reasonable. The people we're negotiating with have no conception of their actual bargaining position, and we don't need you. We're just going to press on because the alternative, allowing the IRGC and the mullahs, proven crazies, to get nuclear weapons or worse, and then to maybe choke off not just Hormuz but other strategic chokeholds around the region. We're not going to let that happen. And if it means higher gas prices for a time, so be it. If it means that we don't do as well in the midterms, so be it. But we've got to win this.
yeah. No, it's hard to understand exactly what is going on. The other thing that people were talking about that seems pretty important is that Putin seems to be getting ready to, everybody likes to obliterate things now. Seems like maybe, yeah, Trump threatens to blow up regional ally Oman. Uh,
Well, because they were Iran and Oman were saying, you know what? Why don't we get together and charge tolls through the Strait of Hormuz? That's why he's saying that. Um, on Putin, um, there's the gentleman we interviewed is in prison now under two charges in Kiev, I guess. Um, he and others are posting footage of what conditions are like in these prisons, where Zelensky claims there are no political prisoners. Well, we know directly from through the lawyer of this Alexander Dubinsky. We know that there is certainly one political prisoner, namely him, and there are many others. And footage has been posted of these prisoners, the conditions they're living in under Kiev. At a certain point, um, it's incumbent upon Americans to rise up and say, now, wait a minute, what the hell are we doing supporting this Zelensky guy at this stage? I mean, this is not, we're supposed to be, as Americans, to the extent we meddle in foreign places, we're supposed to be backing people who run governments in ways that we find, similar to our own, that cherish the freedoms that we protect and that are natural rights, but are enshrined in the Constitution. You're not seeing that in Zelensky's Ukraine. I mean, he's canceled elections. There's no sign of it. There are no elections on the horizon. He's passed his legitimate term. He's jailed his opposition. He's shut down a religion. There was a story, and I don't know if it's true, that the waiting list of super yachts is dominated by Ukrainians. Now, don't tell me that the private sector in Ukraine is so strong that people are creating world-beating companies in Ukraine and feeling that they deserve to join the ranks of fellow super yacht holders like Bezos and Zuckerberg and folks like that. Legitimately, these are people who are buying super yachts whose money stolen from the West. These are people who just recently venerated the death of a proven Nazi, Ukrainian Nazi. They just held a ceremony commemorating this guy. I mean, this is ridiculous. And Marco Rubio wears many hats, but in his role as Secretary of State, it's time for a clinical reassessment of what has been going on inside Ukraine. We now know that everything we feared about Joe Biden is true. We have this Jill Biden nugget where at the time of the debate, she congratulated Joe and said, you did a great job. But now she's claiming that she thought he had a stroke during the debate. It was so bad. It is crystal clear that the Biden family and others, most likely Republicans and Democrats, were stealing money out of Ukraine and perhaps many other countries certainly under the Obama years, likely also under the Bush years and Republican-controlled administrations. And this has got to stop. We have the thin case narrative. We had first it was hantavirus or norovirus, then it was Ebola, and then you have the predictable morons on X who are saying that the reason we have an Ebola outbreak is because we cut off the funding of USAID. I mean, these are people who have an average IQ is 100. They're lucky to be in the low teens with that argument. It is not the U.S. responsibility to police the world for deadly viruses in every country. We don't have that responsibility. But this is now the world is there's a unity and overlap between the legacy media and the Democrat Party. They sense an opportunity. They believe there's an opportunity to do well in the midterms, and they're going to try to shade every single development between now and then as being under the Trump doesn't know what he's doing meme or theme. They're running with this idea that he's sick and he's hiding a sickness. That's why he went to Walter Reed. And in reality, most politicians, if they're lucky, get 60% batting averages on backing people and then see what happens at the polls. Trump's endorsements in this recent round of special elections have gone 108 for 108. It's pretty good, including John Cornyn recently, who absolutely, it's not John Cornyn, Paxton, who destroyed John Cornyn 63 or 64 to 35 or 36. That's an amazing development because Paxton does have issues, around him, but the Texans got together and said, piss off John Cornyn. Then you have Democrats who say, oh, this guy Tallarico or whatever his name is, a vegan who wants to who wants to shut down the energy business in Texas, that guy is going to be Ken Paxton. Maybe in the faculty lounge at Wellesley, he's going to win, but certainly not in Texas.
Texas vegan?
Texas, and one of his principal arguments, he's a climate nut, and he wants to shut down the fossil fuel industry in Texas.
It's idiotic.
And I know, and people in the legacy press are trying to argue that this guy is going to be a blue victory in Texas. They're going to turn Texas blue. It's not going to happen, not legitimately. And so, I wish Trump would use the kind of force that we need here to settle the situation in Iran once and for all. I think it's a pity that we're past Memorial Day and almost in summer and still going at this, because this is peak driving season, and people are across the United States. People who drive are going to see the effects of oil prices. It's going to hurt.
Yeah, well, it affects everything, obviously. Let's see what it says. The average gas price, AAA national average, $4.45. That's not so good.
Yeah, it's getting up there. And we know how gullible the population is. We know how easy it is to whip people up into a frenzy, because that's what the Democrats are great at doing, using crooked foundations and this Neville Sigmund and George Soros and other people's cash. I saw a report, these guys that we see, these Antifa thugs with their masks and their skateboards and their backpacks and their black bloc outfits. There's a report that this Sigmund guy is paying each one of these people $80,000 a year.
Each one of them?
Yeah. He's got billions of dollars.
It's a lot of money.
Well, I know, but this idea of people showing up dressed like that, that skateboard is a weapon. And when you take it out, you put it in both hands, you swing that thing around, you could kill somebody with one of those.
Yeah.
None of these, there should be, when I went, the only political rally I've ever been to, actually, I think, in recent history, was for Bernie Sanders in Washington Square Park. And when I went to that rally, I had to wait in a line for 4 hours to get into Washington Square Park.
Holy cow.
And there were 2 separate magnetometer checkpoints, that you had to go through. You couldn't get back out of the line if you were in the line.
Wow.
Right. So they went to great lengths to make sure there were no. Why why was there no such protection on January 6th near Congress, and why are these Antifa thugs roaming around blue cities and states uh, and trying to jack up MAGA people? Why is this being allowed? You
Speaking
know,
of foundations that are wasting people's money to do things, Norm Eisen has announced a bunch of different things, but he's got a lawsuit against, he's got an ethics complaint, him of all people making ethics complaints against Pam Bondi with the Florida Supreme Court. And then separately, I saw that Democracy Defenders, they joined an amicus defending Act Blue. Unbelievable. I mean, look at the stuff that this guy is doing. This is what happens when you let a problem like this fester. Norm should be in jail, but he's also got a lawsuit that they've announced from Crew against the anti-weaponization fund. I don't see him yapping about that here exactly, but he did announce that earlier today.
again, this is what happens when you let foundations that are supposed to be nonpartisan just do whatever the hell they want in league. I mean, this guy is on left-leaning news almost every night promoting this bullshit.
It's unbelievable that they just let him continue to spew like this. He's, we've been looking at it, Charles. People who missed the last First Amendment forum should really tune in tonight. They're going to be able to join us in about 10 minutes on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Also, people who follow me on X and subscribe at JG_CSTT. But we were looking at Democracy Forward, the Public Integrity Project. There's literally an army of attorneys that have been doing nothing but suing Donald Trump and Donald Trump affiliates since 2017.
Lawfare.
Yeah.
A partisan activity in nonpartisan charities and lawfare. It should not be allowed. If it's okay, Jason, we'll cover that in depth. Can we talk briefly about this idiotic ma'am dummy plan in housing in New York City?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's amazing how this happens. He gives a speech, and immediately on my X feed, there are all these laudatory X postings. So finally, a mayor doing something. Here's the basic plan. New York City is going to, in theory, build either 200,000 or 400,000 new rent-stabilized units, okay? Now, the question is, how is it going to come up with the money? New York City is bankrupt, right? It doesn't have, its revenues do not exceed its expenses, and it has mammoth maintenance expenses that need to be funded across the city, right? Where is it going to come up with the money to do this? Who is going to build these apartments? Is it are private contractors going to do it, or is the city going to do it? If private contractors are going to do it, how are they? Are there going to be bids? Are we going to check carefully to see, that there are no kickbacks to people who, from people who get the winning bid back to Mondami and the Democratic Socialists? So this basic idea is stupid. To have the city, a bankrupt institution, and the state attempt to compete with the private sector in building apartments. That's step one. Step two, there's a separate initiative. There's this woman who I think is very dangerous. CEA is her first name, Weaver, and she is a radical nutcase Marxist with a long record of making incendiary statements that are basically illegal. I mean, her plans are just full stop illegal. She and Mondami and their team of Democratic Socialists are now going to decide whether landlords are responsible or not. And if in their view, landlords are not responsible, they're going to force the transfer of these of property to NGOs. Now, it doesn't explain who these NGOs are and where the NGOs may get the money and what prices these properties are going to be transferred to the NGOs. And their stupid theory is that because NGOs don't have to make a profit, that the property is going to be better managed in New York City. The true problem in New York City with property, and I saw it firsthand, is the amount of red tape that you have to go through as a property owner in New York City is monumental. And anytime there's a decision to be made, there's a city or state or federal bureaucrat who can say, oh, I need more time, or I can't make my mind up, or I'll come up with a stupid decision. So, what you really need to do in New York City, if you wanted to have more property, is you need to look at Singapore and you need to say, okay, let's compare on every major vector dealing with private property and private capital. Let's compare Singapore to New York City and see how much better Singapore is. You know, this idea that you're going to let some lunatic person with no private sector experience, in their judgment, go through a process now where they are going to decide whether you are a responsible landlord. Fuck a voo to that idea. You know, this after COVID, where under COVID, uh, landlords were told, listen, we're saying to tenants they don't have to pay rent anymore. Okay, so what are you supposed to do as a landlord? How are you going to pay your mortgage? How are you going to pay for maintenance? How are you going to pay your, various and sundry utility bills and other bills? So that the whole COVID experience, particularly in New York City and the big cities, decimated landlords. And now, with inflation rising and heating prices rising and electricity costs rising, now you're going to say to landlords that we, people with no experience in the real world, that we are going to decide whether you're responsible. Fuck you. That is not the compact that people entered into when they bought property in New York City and state. And you go down this path, we've seen this around the world in history. This idea, governments decide to seize land of farmers who are not being productive in South Africa, in Chile, and other places. This is an old playbook. It never works, and it particularly doesn't work when you give power to people like Mamdummy and Weaver to make assessments about who's a responsible landlord. This is brazen highway robbery, particularly when now in the city and the state you've got bureaucrats who do touch all of these private landlords. And if a decision is made by the democratic socialists to go after these private landlords, on top of all else, with the various problems that exist in their business models, on top of all else, how are they going to hold on to this property? This is naked theft. And had they run on this platform, they maybe he still would have won in New York City, because people will put up, it seems, with anything in New York City.
Well, they cheated too, I think.
No doubt. And now, if you're J.P. Morgan, if you're a big employer, if you're a big mortgage lender, you're going to look at New York City and state and say, hasta la vista, baby, I'm out of here. This is not a place. I mean, they tax the living shit out of you. How are you going to pay for a mortgage in New York City? This is these people are not trying to help the working class. They're not trying to attract private capital into the city so that people could earn the kind of wages you need to earn to afford the cost of owning a home. These are people who are just trying to, they have a grudge match, I guess, against the rich.
I would say it's more insidious than that, Charles, because basically everything that you're talking about is sort of exactly what this Neighborhood Association of Intercultural Affairs is all about. And I'm not saying this is the only one, but this is one that came to my attention, and we will go in depth and look at. There's some interesting stuff I want to show you about their 990s and stuff that we'll look at in just about a minute when we leave here and head over to the First Amendment Forum. But that's the group, people might remember, that was staffing the Walcott Hotel. And they have all these really weird kind of situations going on where the city funnels money to it for it to do things. And now here we see Mamdani and his cronies saying they're going to provide housing and whatever. I mean, that's basically exactly what this nonprofit says they do, legal services, housing programs, homelessness prevention, rental assistance, providing safe neighborhoods. So it sounds very much like this is the type, if not one of the exact nonprofits that will be taking over these various properties. And by the way, I said this when Mamdani was running. I disagree with this notion that New York City needs to, from a government standpoint, focus on making New York City affordable. New York City, it needs to be like a Cadillac, where it needs to be a premium thing that, sells like crazy and has businesses all over the place. And then the economic benefit of that will make the whole place thrive. They're just going to turn it into, low income housing that comes with crime. And they'll say, oh, that's racist. It's just a fact. I mean, it's going to be dilapidated neighborhoods, tax paying, business creating people moving out. It's a disaster.
Well, they'll finance this by defunding the police. But on the good news front, you saw that Mark Wayne Mullen, the new DHS guy, has announced that sanctuary cities will no longer be able to clear incoming international arrivals if they want to still be sanctuary cities. No flights into JFK.
Wow, that's going to be something. Well, Charles, we'll carry on this conversation in just about 5 minutes. I hope that people will join us over there on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com.